All right, everybody, if I could get your attention for just a minute. It is now 7:30, and we're about ready to get started as soon as Miss Whittington lets me know that her recording device is turned on. It's on. All right, is everybody else ready to go? Good deal. So we actually have to do, we need to do some swearing ins first, and I think that is the first order of business. So I'll call the meeting to order for that purpose. And this is actually the first one that I've done in a long time, so might need Miss Whittington to kind of help me out here on the process. Are we ready to go ahead and swear in the new members? Very good. All right, so I will do each of the new members one by one, and then that way they can bring their families up. And I'll start up front by myself, and I'll start by swearing in Mr. Page, if that's okay. Let's head up front, Mr. Page. Put this up here, make sure everybody can hear us. Okay. Page, thank you for being here. All right, let's get you started. All right, please place your left hand on the Bible, raise your right hand, and repeat after me. I state your name.
I, Joshua Page,
Do solemnly swear or affirm
do solemnly swear or affirm
that I will faithfully perform
that I will faithfully perform
the duties of council member
the duties of council member
of this city,
of this city,
and I will support and defend
and I will support and defend
the charter thereof,
the charter thereof,
as well as the Constitution
as well as the Constitution
and laws of the state of Georgia
and laws of the state of Georgia
and the United States of America.
and the United States of America.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations. Absolutely. And would you like to recognize the family and friends that you have here tonight?
Absolutely.
And you're welcome to come
Sure.
up and get a picture.
Yeah, come on. I have my wife here we just had our first baby on the 4th, so she's recovering, little girl. And then my parents and my aunt. Come on up.
And I can be in it or out of it. It's up to you.
Come on up here.
Or have it. Several. Miss Avery, would you mind coming up? Thank you, Miss Avery. Welcome. Could you place your left hand on the Bible, raise your right hand, and your husband's welcome to hold the Bible if he wants to, or for you. They'll make it easier on you, I promise you. All right, I state your name.
Meg Avery,
Do solemnly swear or affirm
solemnly swear or affirm
that I will faithfully perform the duties
that I will faithfully
of council member
of council member
of this city, and that I will support and defend
that I will support and defend
the charter thereof,
the charter thereof
as well as the Constitution
as well as the Constitution
and the laws of the state of Georgia
and the laws of the state
and the United States of America.
and
So help me God.
so help me God.
Very good. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. And the same, is there anybody else that you'd like to acknowledge from your family or from friends that are here tonight? Or
Friends tonight. Donna and Brenda. Stella Jean.
Very good. Very good. Would you like a picture? Okay. Get one. Start. All right, next, Mr. Perkle, if he could come up. So, Mr. Perkle? Would you like to borrow one? We have one? Okay. We never give out instructions on that. Very good. All right, I state your name,
I, Gary Purple,
do solemnly swear or affirm
do solemnly swear or affirm
that I will faithfully perform
that I will faithfully perform
the duties of council member
the duties of council member
of this city,
of this city,
and that I will support and defend
and that I will support and defend
the charter thereof,
the charter thereof,
as well as the Constitution and laws
as well as the Constitution and laws
of the state of Georgia
of the state of Georgia
and the United States of America,
and the United States of America.
so help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations. Yes, sir. Mr. Purple, sorry, it's not picking up as well. Would you like to recognize your friends and family that are here?
I would, but I recognize, I've got a list of several friends and people that helped me that I'd like to thank. They're my reports, so
Okay.
I don't leave out anyone. That's all right.
That sounds great. Absolutely. Would you care for a picture? Absolutely. Congratulations again. All right, and I believe that's it. Good. All right, next we'll get back on our normal routine. First, we'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance, and then if you could stay standing afterwards, I'm going to actually ask Mr. Page if he would mind blessing the meeting, because I've heard he prays really well. So, I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America
Thank you. Mr. Page.
Let's go to the Lord in prayer. Father God, we come to you tonight to simply give you thanks. We thank you for all our lives and bless our wonderful city.
Amen. Thank you, Mr. Page. All right, the next order of business is approval of the agenda. Is there a motion to approve the agenda?
I make a motion to approve the agenda.
Have a motion from Mr. Hicks. Is there a second? Second from Mr. Perkel. All those in favor?
Could I make a correction to the minutes?
Yes, I'm sorry, but this is the agenda. We'll be on the minutes next.
Okay.
Thank you, though. And I will absolutely make sure that we take care of that. Is there a motion to approve the agenda? I'm sorry, there's a motion. All those in favor of approving the agenda, please raise your right hand. Very good. Next, we'll move on to the approval of the minutes. And Ms. Avery has informed me that she has a couple of amendments to correct some missing information. And so if you could, Ms. Avery, I'd request a motion from you to approve the council meeting minutes for December the 11th, the work session meetings for December the 4th, and the special called meeting minutes for December the 8th with an amendment. Thank you.
I would like to make a motion to amend the minutes of the December 11th meeting for the following items. The last sentence in the paragraph for the item Public Hearing 2024, after the sentence ending approved 4-0, should also include, quote, reference attached 2024 budget ordinance. This is because although the motion was made to approve the budget as presented, it was not presented as an ordinance in the first public hearing on December 4th, nor during the second public hearing on December 11th, nor on the agenda provided at the December 11 meeting. So the minutes need to reflect that the budget is an ordinance with a copy attached. Also, regarding the minutes for the 12/28 special called meeting, I make a motion to attend the minutes for the following item. There's a paragraph that begins presentation and acceptance. This is in regarding the 2022 audit. There were 3 sentences listed in the minutes explaining the reason for the delay of the audit. When I was at the meeting and I checked my notes, I saw that one sentence that was explained as a delay said, the firm/auditor was overburdened, and at the same time as the auditor was working on our audit, he was undergoing a peer review. So I would like that sentence included in the minutes for the 12/28 special called meeting.
All right, I have a motion from Ms. Avery to approve those minutes with amendments. Is there a second?
Second.
I have a second from Mr. Anderson. All those in favor, please raise your right hand. Minutes are approved with amendments.
Mayor, I heard the motion to amend the minutes.
Yeah.
So you have now amended the minutes. You will need to make an additional motion to approve the minutes as amended.
You got it, and we will learn all this. This will be a process, and we'll just be patient and get through all of it. Is there a motion to approve the minutes as amended?
So moved.
All right, I have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Second from Mr. Page. All those in favor, raise your right hand. All right, we are good to go. All right, we have no awards, presentations, or proclamations. We will move on to reports, and I'll start with the city attorney.
Thank you, Mayor. I have no report.
All right, we will now move on to city council members, and I will start with Mr. Perkel on my left-hand side.
Thank you. I'd just like to take a minute to thank everybody that helped me or inspired me to be up here this time. First of all, my family, Jake Nelson and Scott, who could not be here, Megan Josh, also Jan Knight, Chris Knight, Guy and Allison, Betsy Olinger, Andy Schultz, the Januaries, the Halls, all of you helped me greatly. But I'd also like to recognize another person who inspired me, and that's Amber Chambers. I have been out of this council for 10 years, and I saw a lot of changes going on, some of which I liked, some I did not like, and particularly with the debt and the high density downtown. And as I would drive past these, I would wonder, is there nobody that's upset about what's going on? If I'm the only one, I'll keep silent about it. But I saw somebody else that was willing to step up and take a stand and inspire me, and that was Amber, and I appreciate that. And so I'd like to thank all of you for helping me be here, and just look forward to the next 4 years. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Perkle. Next, we'll move on to Mr. Hicks.
Thanks, Mayor. I just wanted to, again, congratulate Gary, Meg, and Josh, and looking forward to working with each one of you.
Thank you, Mr. Hicks. Mr. Anderson, you're next. Guys, I hear some conversation going on in the audience, and if you could, just kind of keep it down just a little bit so that we can be respectful of the new council members as they speak, and thank you. Mr. Anderson.
Thank you, Mayor. I also offer my congratulations to Gary, Meg, and Joshua. It's great to see you all up here, and I want to extend congratulations, Joshua. I thought the baby was due a little bit later. They came almost a New Year's baby there. So congratulations. You are in for a true joy, and this is definitely the highlight of being a parent and a new father. So congratulations. The Riverlands Authority has not met yet this month, so I don't have a report on the Riverlands Authority. We will meet Wednesday. And other than that, that's all I've got. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Anderson. Ms. Avery, you're next.
Yes, I was so surprised and delighted to be up here again. I just didn't imagine that this would be happening. And I'm so glad that I took the chance, and I'm so grateful. And there were a few times during the campaign that I thought, well, I don't know if I'm going to win. But I thought, if I do lose, it would just be because of the numbers. And look how much I have gained. I have met so many wonderful people in Sugar Hill, and I have been supported by so many great people, neighbors, friends, acquaintances, and I'm so grateful to everyone that helped. I'm so grateful to the residents who had the confidence in me and faith and came out and voted for me twice. And I just feel that gratitude is such a big thing for me, and it means a lot to me to be here. And I thought about, life being full of chances, choices, and changes. And I took a chance, and I decided to run for post 3. The residents deserve to have a choice on the ballot, and it seems they also wanted a change of leadership on the council. For me, it is a responsibility and an honor to serve on the council. And I'm just so grateful to all those voters. And I'm grateful for a supportive husband and those who helped me during the campaign, which was longer than we expected. But we persevered and it came out ahead. Sugar Hill is a wonderful community, as Josh had mentioned, and it's the foundation of our sweet city. I believe in listening and responding to all residents' questions and concerns while having the vision of well-managed growth and financial stability, as well as continuing to provide services, events, and activities for everyone. This is a new year and a new opportunity for all of us on the City Council. Change is not always easy, but it allows for growth, new ideas, and exciting possibilities as we all work together for the best outlook for the future of Sugar Hill. I'm looking forward to moving ahead with this new team. Thank you.
Ms. Avery, next up is, Mr. Page, you're next.
Thank you, Mayor. Do want to say a few thank yous as well. First and foremost, I want to thank my wife and family for their support over the past few months. Secondly, I do want to thank Paul and Troy for their time coordinating with me, talking with me about our city, and also giving me a tour, meeting our city employees, seeing our facilities out there, and just getting to know everyone. Also, I want to thank Mayor Hembry and Councilmember Anderson and Councilmember Hicks for meeting with me in December as well, getting to know each other a little better, getting to what the future of our city holds. Really appreciate that time. Lastly, I want to say thank you to the citizens of Sugar Hill for entrusting me to serve them for the next 4 years. I'm eager to serve our sweet city and to collaborate in making our community a better place for all. I'm looking forward to what this group of elected individuals will accomplish over the next few years together, and I'm ready to get to work. With that being said, that concludes my report, Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Page, and thank you for blessing the meeting as well. Great job on that. All right, next up is me, and I also want to welcome all the new council members. I know that we're going to work together well as a team going forward. I typically do a PowerPoint presentation where I talk about some of the community engagement activities that we've been involved with, but I actually have a video today that I think someone is going to pull up, and I'll talk about it before we get started on it. This is a video that was done by the Lanier Cluster, and it just talks about some of the initiatives that they have going on, and I played a very small role in the video, and I'm just excited about the message that it conveys about our Lanier Cluster of schools. And I think, and if you'll just indulge me, I believe it's like maybe 6 or 7 minutes long, but thank you, Mr. Awana.
Students should have that opportunity to speak their voice. Conversation should sound respectful. It should look calm. It should feel empowering. And it should also just be, great.
Having a strong student voice here within the Lanier Cluster has been key and a hallmark piece for what we do here.
We want to make sure that what we're teaching, the way that we're instructing, the way that we're engaging with our students matches the ways that they want to learn, matches the things that they're interested in.
Okay, here we go. It's gonna be random.
One of the first things that I share with new staff coming into the building is if you build that relationship, you can do a lot with making that student feel comfortable. Also pushing them to higher heights. So keep your doors open for students and be that bridge and that caring person, because that goes a long way just in the makeup of the entire cluster and how we operate.
As long as I've been here, my teachers have always had an open door policy. I've never had a teacher that made me feel suppressed. You know, just from orchestra, just her allowing me to have mobility and freedom makes me feel heard and like my voice matters.
An iceberg is an interesting concept for the first rule of leadership.
We have a strong student leadership group throughout the elementary, the middle schools, up to the high school.
All students are leaders, but they need the time and space to actually show that leadership. We believe that by being involved in clubs and sports and leadership opportunities, that it helps the students care more about our community and believe in themselves.
Here within our high school, we have more than 40 student clubs and organizations. We want them to get involved. We want them to have experiences that are very diverse.
We're leaders, but we're in different parts of our journey. Some of us are very outspoken, very strong, very dominant. Some of us need to be put out of our shell a bit more. But just meeting people where they are and helping them help others improve and teach them the ways to do that correctly.
I really do like that Lanier wants students to be in leadership. Like, though we have teachers and administrators, they really want the students to take initiative and learn how to advocate for themselves.
We have a very unique partnership with the city of Sugar Hill. The city approached us recently about a project they have called Envision 100.
The goal of Envision 100 is to work with residents to get their opinion on what they would like our community to look like in 2039, which happens to be our 100th anniversary as a city.
So we brought students in K through 12 to provide feedback to the city on what they want Sugar Hill to look like in the future.
Behind you eventually will be some spaces for restaurants and shops. I thought it was pretty interesting. The way they all work together to make a plan.
Get a green? It is a green.
Who knows, there may be some things that the kids want, like, hey, I want a playground here.
The closest community pool by my house is around 15 minutes, so I would like one closer.
Engaging in ways like this, it helps them understand their value.
That helps get a perspective from what we see and what we hear and stuff.
Part of what our peer leaders do at Lanier High School is do cluster visits where they're teaching leadership lessons to younger peer leaders.
Yes, that's our S, yes. I was a peer leader, fifth grade peer leader. Having the high schoolers come in was so impactful because I knew it didn't stop there.
Our goal is to help cultivate an atmosphere of servant leadership that extends throughout the entire cluster so that those fifth graders are learning about themselves and learning how to lead others as well.
What happened? We're kind of the hot commodity there. Some of them don't have necessarily the older siblings or that older role model. So us being there, it gets them so excited and wanting them to do more in their community and just continue to grow.
That people don't see is what really shines through. And that's what's really important as a leader.
As the world changes, our student population is changing.
There are over 55 countries represented in Lanier High School alone.
We're seeing families now that have greater needs than ever before. We don't know what the needs are unless we engage in dialogue and engage in conversations with them.
Teachers and administrators and staffs are constantly checking in.
So it's important to know what subgroups exist here within our cluster. And I needed to do more outreach as it related to the Latino community.
So now for our conversation. One thing that's important for me is being a Latino. I didn't have anybody that looked like me or that ate the same foods or talked like me when I was in school. So I think that's a very big thing for these students to know that they have somebody that has been through some of the stuff that they're going through. Lanier Latino Partnership is a group that's very near and dear to my heart.
I came to United States last year. It was my first time here. I didn't know anyone, so this club with these people, it was kind of like my place here.
They meet twice a month to talk about issues and concerns as it relates to the Hispanic community. The students drive it.
Every month, every week, we have new people Hispanic here. I say we have a club, we can help you. I see this like a family.
If we bring that support to those students, we can make a better place here.
This year we have a really good group of students that have taken on that leadership role, and they run our Instagram. They've actually come up with many of the topics for our meetings this year as well. All right, so these are our shirts. It's basically a combination of our Lanier Longhorn along with Latin America. And these are all student creations, and they're all very, very proud of these. Sugar Hill Church is a great big supporter of what we do. We have a big event at the end of the year. It's a huge party, bouncy houses, games, free tacos, and of course, like music and dancing. We're Latinos, that's what we do.
When we have kids that are in need, all it takes is a phone call and they make sure that those families are taken care of.
Dr. Martin and all the principals in this cluster, they invite us just to be partners with them. Whether it's hosting leadership conferences with the school, working with young Latino students, mentoring, whatever it is, the opportunity is, can we give them voice, not just in the concept of how do I get brighter, but how can I lead and use that for the betterment?
There is an unbelievable community support for our children that exists here.
I'm just amazed by the wisdom of our kids. Sometimes I think they get community better than adults do. You can see it in how they interact with each other. You can see it in how they interact with their teachers and principals. I actually think we have a lot to learn from our school students here in Sugar Hill. Thank you, Mr. Awana, and thank you to everybody for listening to that. I know we have some school teachers and some school staff here tonight from the Lanier Cluster, and I just want to say thank you for what you do, and thank you for the partnership that the city has with the Lanier Cluster. I always describe our kids as our most important residents, and I think when we keep them in mind in everything that we do, then we're doing right by our community. So thank you. I appreciate it. And then next, we're going to move on to the city clerk's report. Ms. Whittington.
Thank you, Mayor. I have no report this evening.
No report. The city manager's up next.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm only going to suggest that people pick up a copy of the monthly review that's available in the back. It gives a description of the activities in December, and urge them to get involved. With that, I conclude my report.
Thank you, Mr. Radford. And if you missed it when you came in, this is what he's referring to, and it's a great document that talks about all of the things that are going on from a city standpoint. All right, next we will go to our youth council, and I do believe we have some youth council members here to speak. Welcome, everybody.
Hello, everybody. Good evening, Mayor and Council. My name is Madison Jingra, and I serve as Secretary on the Sugar Hill Youth Council. The Youth Council would like to start off by welcoming all of the new council members, and this is the first official council meeting, so Happy New Year, everybody. On behalf of the Youth Council, we have also had our first meeting of the year, so I just wanted to come up here and let you guys know how we are doing. We are very excited about the Champion Tree Park and our project involving it. Our project plan as of right now is still undecided. However, we have lots of ideas surrounding things we are very passionate about, such as advocating for mental health and helping to increase literacy rates among the youth. We are also very excited to be planning ahead for our annual trip to Washington, D.C. for the National League of Cities Congressional Conference, and we are optimistic for what's to come in the future, and we're excited about being able to share it with you all. So thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate your report. Next, we'll move on to citizens and guest comments, and this is an opportunity for citizens and guests to come up and express anything that they'd like to about the city. Each individual has up to 3 minutes to do that. Is there anybody that would like to take advantage of that? Yes, sir. And you know the normal routine, but welcome.
Good evening. Rick January, or actually known as James January, sorry about that. Live at 1282 Frontier Drive, Sugar Hill. Just want to welcome y'all. It's great to see all y'all up there. Obviously, I played a part in getting some of you on the council, and I'm glad to see you there. But I'm also glad to see the rest of you here, and certainly looking forward to seeing a council work together. Don't expect you, excuse me, don't expect you to agree. Hopefully, there'll be times when you'll greatly disagree. That should be the case. But overall, what we want, of course, as a citizen of Sugar Hill, we want to see you doing all you can to make sure you keep us informed. Obviously, the results of this election are, I think, in part because the citizens didn't feel they were being kept informed and being represented, and that's what we ask of you. So please keep that in mind as you conduct business for the city. One other thing I'd like to say, I'd like to recognize Mayor Hembry for his article that on gold mining in the city of Sugar Hill. That was an interesting article. If you didn't get to read that, it was in Newsbreak. Is this what it's called?
In the North Gwinnett Voice.
I'm sorry?
North Gwinnett Voice.
North Gwinnett Voice.
Yes,
Yeah,
sir.
good article. So
Thank you, Mr. January. Appreciate that. Anybody else that would like to take advantage of the time? All right, I don't see anybody, so we will close citizens and guest comments. We have no consent agenda. We have no old business, but we do have some new business, and I'll recognize Mr. Perkle for item number 1.
Thank you, Mayor. I've been reading over the ordinances, trying to come up to speed and the changes that have happened in the city in the last 10 years since I've been away, make sure I understand what's going on there. As part of doing that, I was reading over the zoning classifications of the city. Historically, the zoning for multifamily was RM. That was changed to R36 and I believe R72. As part of those changes, the R36 zoning classification had some things modified in it. Historically, also, the maximum heights allowed in the city were 2 stories and a basement. Those have been modified. The R36 zoning classification is could be placed anywhere within the city limits. And a couple of things I would like to modify there. The first of which is the density. Historically, that requirement or that maximum allowance was 8 units per acre. There is a footnote that was added to that in Table 9.1 that would allow a 50% increase in the density in zoning, so that would bring it up to 12 units per acre if certain conditions were met with back alleyways and those sort of things. Also, there's a table referenced in, or an Appendix C referenced in Table 9.1 that sets the maximum building heights within the R36 zoning classification. For townhouses, that was 40 feet, but there were greater heights allowed for stacked duplexes and triplexes, something called big house and others. Those could be 50 feet or more. I think those are all too high for Sugar Hill. Most people don't want to see something peeking over the trees or the house next door. Want to enjoy the privacy of their backyard. So I'd like to have those lowered and be made consistent at 40 feet. I think that's it for R36. If we decide to go this route, we would need two motions on this. The first of which would be for zoning changes, but then the second will be for a moratorium for 3 months. The purpose for that would be, if we were going to go forward with these changes, to basically freeze things where they are while this goes through the process of being advertised, going to Planning and Zoning Board, coming back to the council, where we'd have the final decision on that. So this would basically stop things during that 3 months. We can make the consideration, then new projects under that classification would be allowed. So that is the basis behind number one. If there's any discussion or anything, I'd be happy to discuss that. If not, I'd be happy to make a motion whenever discussion is done.
Absolutely. I think there might be some discussion. Just for clarification, we're not making the zoning changes right now. This is a moratorium. It's a 3-month moratorium in number one.
Well, so there would be two things. The zoning change part would just be to send it to P&Z. We can't make that change before it's advertised, send to Planning and Zoning for their consideration, and we'll come back. So all we'd be doing is voting to send that in process to the Planning Board.
Got it. Understand.
If that is approved, then I would also follow that up with a motion for moratorium so that there will be no projects during that 3-month period while that change is considered, to basically cap that height and the density.
You got it. Okay. Thank you. Any discussion? Yes, sir. Mr. Anderson.
I've got a number of questions about the impacts to existing projects that are under construction. First off, Kaipo, have you had time or adequate time to review what this actually means for the R36 zoning and specifically for the projects that are under construction?
It would not impact anything under construction.
Okay, well, the moratorium says it would actually put a moratorium on all
Mr. Perkle,
special use permits, zoning approvals, land disturbance permits, building permits, or other permits or approvals for properties located within the R36 zoning classification, or for properties desired to be rezoned or changed to the R36 zoning classification through and including April 15th, 2024. So, Frank, I may be misinterpreting that, but does that mean that my interpretation of that portion of the moratorium would be that current projects, and maybe the intent was for it not to include current or projects that are currently under construction. I mean, I'm fine with putting an R36 moratorium in for new zonings requested for 90 days, but it seems very prohibitive to existing projects to put them into a moratorium when they're already going.
So after the date, there are two additional further resolves. The intent of those further resolves is that it shall not affect any projects for which there has already been an approval or for which there has been an application that staff has deemed complete. And so there's the broad moratorium, but it is then modified to say it exempts anything that has already received its permit or for which applications for permits have already been submitted, so that it's not supposed to halt any current or existing projects. It's really meant to stop any new projects from moving forward
So if Park Ridge comes in with a building permit tomorrow, for applying for a building, if this passes tonight, and Park Ridge, which is under construction right now, comes in for a building permit tomorrow, for a building permit for an R36 townhome, will they be able to actually get a permit or not?
So I think that's a question for Kaipo, because I don't know how your building permits are issued. Whether you're talking about Skyview or whether you're talking about another one, I don't know if your building permits are issued. The project's been approved, and so you're entitled to a building permit for the entire project, or if it's building by building. The intent as drafted for this was that if the project has already been approved, it would not prevent Skyview from continuing to be developed. So if there's some issue with they've gotten a building permit for 2 buildings, but they've got a 3rd building that needs to be permitted, then we can certainly clarify that the intent is not to prevent Skyview or some other project that has been approved from getting additional permits for their approved project. The idea behind this, is my understanding, was that this would prevent any new projects from being approved or applied for.
Correct. That's the way I asked it be drawn up, so that was the impression I had. It would only apply to new projects. I'm not aware of any existing projects that were in the works.
Well, just because of the way the resolution reads, I mean, it says building permit, so if Ridge, Kaipo, how do we issue, if Park Ridge comes in for a building permit tomorrow, they've currently got an active land disturbance permit, correct?
Correct.
So if they wanted to come in tomorrow for a building permit, that's a new permit, correct?
That is correct. We have not received any applications for building permits for the Park Ridge.
So if they came in the next 90 days, that sounds like they would not be able, I mean, that's what it says, no new building permits for properties located within the R36 zoning classification. It doesn't say for new projects within, or any, it doesn't reference new or anything. I understand it says it further resolved, but that's only for active permits that are already been permitted or applied for. I'm talking about a brand-new permit.
Yeah, we can clarify the language of the further resolve that if you already have a land disturbance permit and then are coming in for a building permit, we can clarify that that is not going to hold up your project, that if you've gotten permits already, as it leads through the process from land disturbance to building, that you can continue to move your project forward.
I mean, it seems to me that the better way to state this would be that we would just put a moratorium on new R36 zonings, and that seems to me to clarify that there would be no new R36 zoning applications accepted for the next 90 days while we go through this process. That seems much simpler to me.
You could do it that way. As your attorney, I would not advise you to do it that way.
Well, why is that?
Because people always look for loopholes, and that way you provide people the ability to find more loopholes and a project to start that you didn't intend to be started.
And I'm not sure how you get a loophole in a zoning case, but okay. I mean, that's my biggest concern is, based on what I'm hearing from Kaipo, we need some more clarification on existing projects so that they do not end up having a moratorium put in place on them.
Right, so the intent was really to deal with new zoning. So if we want to craft something there about specific projects, as I said, I'm not aware of those. I asked Frank to draw it up, and that was his wording on how he felt to implement it.
It seems to me that it would be better if we tabled this to get the appropriate language to actually get the intent that was desired, as opposed to, because as the way it's read now, and based on what Kaipo's telling me, I don't know how the city issues permits in an R36 zoning classification without further clarification.
Yeah, the concern there would be new applications that would come in without that. Would it not be possible to do a moratorium on any new zonings? And then if there's anything else on development, that could be discussed and brought back next month?
Sure, that's up to the council.
Okay, I'm fine with making it on new zonings as opposed to existing zone developments. That was the intent to begin with.
Yeah, and I'm in agreement with that.
I appreciate the questioning back and forth. Is that something that's possible to be crafted tonight?
You can make a motion, and then we'll have to, based on your motion, draft the resolution to be signed. I cannot craft it here, no.
I'll just let you know what my preference is because I'm the one that has to sign it. That I want to make sure that it's legal and that it doesn't open us up to litigation by any pending developers that have projects or that need to pull permits.
It will be based on whatever motion is made.
That's a little unclear for me, so I might exercise my authority to veto something like that. But I would really like for y'all to sit down at the table together and work this out. I think this is something that's important that we get right.
All right, so I have a further question for Kaipo. Do we have any R36 zonings currently applied for that are new zoning applications for an R36 zoning in the city?
We do not.
Are you aware of any that are coming, have you been told of any that are imminent, coming anytime soon?
Not specifically for R36.
Okay. So would it be, I mean, is it reasonable to ask that we table this until February so that we can get the language right? Is that a reasonable ask? Is that acceptable?
The only thing that would do, that opens it up to zonings that would come in that time period with that particular density or height, but we're certainly free to not approve those zonings as well.
And I believe, Kaipo, if I believe definitely the last R36 zoning was denied. Maybe more than that. May have been the last two R36 zonings. I don't remember. We don't get those that often, but.
I think that's correct, but
Yeah. I guess that my preference is to get the language right rather than trying to do this through a motion. And then I don't know how we can all agree that things are, that we are in agreement on this moratorium. I understand the intent is there. We're in agreement on the intent. I'm just worried that the language is not here for us to consider.
I would just remind you that you also have the ability to call a special called meeting. If you were to determine that you wanted to call a special called meeting, you would not necessarily have to wait until February.
Okay, and I'm good with that too. I'm good with getting the language right and having a special called meeting.
All right, let me follow that up with a question then, Frank. Since we're going to be drafting potential changes or sending that to planning and zoning, potentially, which could be done with or without the moratorium, would we need to table both aspects of that, or could we go ahead and send the changes to the ordinance, advertise those, and send them to the Planning Commission?
Yes, you could.
Moratorium could come back.
You could separate the two actions and approve a motion tonight to ask staff to draft changes to the R36 zoning classification and send it through the typical zoning process, and table the moratorium. If you're going to table it, I would suggest that the best way to table an item is to table it to a date certain. So you would either need to table it to your February meeting or decide tonight when you're going to hold your special called meeting and table it to the date of your anticipated special called meeting.
I don't think we need to call a meeting for that. I'm fine tabling and discussing at the work session. But I would like to go ahead and do the advertising and send the changes to planning and zoning so that can get in the process and not be held up.
And just for that particular thing, since Kaipo has not drafted the language, what exactly are we sending to planning and zoning? We're not actually sending a zoning amendment or zoning ordinance change to them. We're just sending some language, some desired language, because obviously a change in building height of 40 to 40 feet, if that is approved, we need to work through the process of those what will now become non-conforming uses within our city, and what that means from a legal standpoint, from a zoning standpoint. We need, I mean, that's a lot of.
They'd already be allowed. I mean, you don't go back and apply that to a project that already exists.
And I agree with that, but there's still some consequences to having legal non-conforming uses within within your city and from within an existing zoning classification that need special legal attention so that those can continue. So, for example, if a legal non-conforming building burns down, unfortunately, what is the process through which that building gets rebuilt? And that there's a lot of language, a lot of legal language that needs to happen in order to facilitate these zoning changes that are being proposed.
And I think the motion or the direction would be for staff to start working on an amendment and work it through the process, that as you're doing that, you're going to develop all of those components of it. Your staff is going to say to you, if the direction is that you will have a maximum height of all types of buildings, for lack of a better term, that can be constructed in R36, the maximum height is going to be 40 feet, if that's the direction for staff. Staff will start working on that zoning amendment, and as part of that process, we'll say, we don't have any buildings that currently are over 40 feet. So there are no buildings that we need, or we've got these developments that have buildings that are over 40 feet, so we need to consider some language. So the direction is just for staff to start working on an amendment and bring it forward. It's not to direct staff that the language should equal or be any particular language, if that makes sense.
Frank, I have a question, a legal question. If, let's say, a new project that has not been before the council or planning zoning comes in tomorrow for R36, we don't have the moratorium in place. Do we open ourselves up to any legal challenges with that coming through as R36 between now and the moratorium, since they're kind of already in the queue? Or how does that kind of work with I mean, I don't want to open ourselves up to any type of legal ramifications down the line of, I'm in agreement with tabling. I'm just trying to see the big picture of how that works.
So zoning decisions are legislative decisions, and as the legislative body, you get to determine what is a reasonable zoning for a particular piece of property. Your decision as a legislative body in making a zoning decision, though, is limited by the Georgia and U.S. constitutions. You cannot make arbitrary and capricious decisions. If you can be sued for those. And you cannot make a decision that would result in a taking of a person's property under the U.S. and Georgia constitutions without just and adequate compensation for that property. So you have some flexibility in making your zoning decisions, but you also could leave yourself open to potential challenges that you acted in an arbitrary or capricious manner, or you took someone's property without just and adequate compensation. If you go ahead and put on a moratorium, then until you get your ordinance worked out, you at least put those potential liability issues on hold.
Okay, so just clarification, if R36 zoning comes in tomorrow, a new applicant, this might be a question for Kaipo, moratorium goes into place, let's say arbitrarily in the February meeting, would that application just go on hold until after the moratorium is over, or is it actually still in the queue to continue on and go to planning and zoning and come here?
So until the moratorium is entered and becomes effective, any new applications would go through the normal process. So if an application comes in tomorrow, it will be processed by your planning department, advertised, run through the planning commission, and then come onto a council agenda. It will not be held up in any way, because there is not, unless you vote tonight to put on a moratorium, there would not be an active moratorium in place to stop that application.
I have a question, if you don't mind. If we do give staff direction to begin the process of pulling together a recommendation for the Planning and Zoning Commission, what process do we have to approve that language before it's given to them at a base level? Is there any, it sounds to me like when we give direction, we're giving them the ability to determine what they give to the Planning and Zoning Commission.
Yes, I think in your motion, you could provide whatever parameters you wanted staff to, or guidelines you wanted staff to follow. Within that, staff would craft the language. Obviously, some of the language would be crafted by staff from a planning standpoint. Staff would consult with our office. From a legal standpoint, if there are any things that they needed to consider or any language we needed to put into it from a legal standpoint, it would ultimately then go through the planning commission, and then when it came before the council on a council agenda, you would obviously at that point through a work session and other times have the opportunity to provide input as well.
Thank you. Sounds like a super complicated process, and it might be just easier for us to kind of sit down at the table together and figure out what we want to move forward. That's just my opinion on it. Y'all are the ones that decide. Any further discussion? Is there a motion?
I do think, particularly that we've brought it up for discussion, there is a possibility that projects may be brought in during this time period. Obviously, we can vote for or against those on an individual basis. I don't know if we could deal with the height as a condition of those, if we wanted to do that on an individual basis.
From placing conditions, as part of your zoning powers, you have the ability to place conditions on projects, and as long as those conditions are reasonable, again, they are not arbitrary or capricious, you have the ability to condition zoning actions, and so, yes.
So they could be zoned for max height, noting that we have in the process that we're considering that.
Correct.
All right, fine. I'm fine tabling this till next month's meeting. I'll make a motion to table.
Thank you, Mr. Perkle. I have a motion to table. Is there a second?
Second.
Second from Mr. Page. Any further discussion before I call the vote? All right, all those in favor of tabling, please raise your right hand. All right, thank you all. All right, we'll move on to item number 2. I'm assuming that will be very similar, but Mr. Perkle.
Similar but slightly different. I don't think it's likely to be have a project in development here. This is in the Central Business District. Article 10, Section 1002 states that the maximum height for buildings, basically on the Broad Street area, is 70 feet. I feel that to be excessive. I feel 5 is out of character, and 70 would certainly be excessive. But more egregiously, there's an exception table that allows for heights of 84 feet and 130 feet, 13-story building in downtown Sugar Hill. I feel there's no call for that. I don't think the citizens would like seeing that. You'd probably see it halfway down to the river. Those particularly, I would also like to reduce the height. Outside of that is going to be the same sort of discussion in terms of potential moratorium and zoning ordinance. I am not aware of anything that would come anywhere close to this. The only development that I recall hearing zoned, and I believe was already approved downtown, was a restaurant in the corner there, and that was a 3-story building. I'm not aware of anything being considered in excess to that.
All right, thank you, Mr. Perkle. Any discussion from other members? Mr. Andrews?
Typo, same question as before. Are you aware of any applications or pending applications in the Central Business District for a new building outside of the aforementioned restaurant?
Building?
Building, yeah, brand new building, not build outs, but buildings, yes, yes, sir.
Skyview has several buildings that they've not applied for permits yet. There are some permits on the Prestwick project that have not been issued. I believe all of Nevers has been permitted.
Okay.
So there are a handful of projects that are in process in the development pipeline that have not received or applied for and received all of their building permits, planned building permits.
Gotcha. And just so I understand, Mr. Perkle, that your intent is not for the moratorium to impact those projects, is that correct?
Anything that has permits, no. This was particularly related to the zonings, but I'm not particularly familiar, Mr. Hartley, Central Business District, would that require any new zonings, or since it's laid out basically as Broad Street, is everything already zoned in that classification? So
I think that might be a better question for Mr. Awana, but I think it's the latter. I think a lot of things are already zoned and would not necessarily require any type of rezoning action. And if you're worried about particular projects, then obviously you could just specifically, in your motion to the moratorium, if you wanted to put a moratorium on, you could specifically exempt Skyview and Prestwick, or if there are any other projects. I mean, your area is somewhat limited. Your planning department should be able to provide you a list of those projects to exclude from the moratorium.
yeah, I'm not familiar with those projects or what they have planned. I just think in no case should a 13-story building be allowed downtown, or even 84-foot building. The limit outside of that is 70, if you want to consider that as the moratorium, that's the maximum height, which is already allowed in the zoning district. To remove the table, that's certainly, to remove the table in the zoning classification that exempts and allows larger heights, I'd be open to that as well. But I do think that one is one that definitely should be considered, and certainly a much more limited area as well. I'm willing to hear any information that you might have on those projects, because I'm not familiar with them and what they entail.
Yeah, and I think that's part of the issue here is that we've got 3 new folks coming in, and we're trying to put a moratorium, 2 moratoriums in place on things that we really haven't had that you all in particular have not had a chance to get up to speed on. But I am in agreement with Mr. Perkel that I'd be fine on putting a moratorium on buildings in excess of 70 feet in height for 90 days. I would be in agreement with that.
Okay.
I just want to make, just to kind of, this is the same issue that we had on the previous one. It is, again, it's zoning approvals, land disturbance permits, building permits, and other permits or approvals that were, within the Central Business District. The problem is, and I talked to Mr. Awana today about this, because we have obviously several build-outs in our various buildings, both the East Center and Solis, that will be applying for them in the first quarter, as you all probably recall.
I'm fine exempting those. I don't think they come anywhere close to the 70-foot height limit.
I guess my proposal would be we would just put a moratorium on buildings in excess of 70 feet in height for 90 days. Is that?
Be happy with that.
And I'm in agreement with that.
All right, any further discussion, questions? All right, is there a motion?
All right, so this is something also that would need to be considered in 2 motions. The first is to put a moratorium for 90 days on any buildings in excess of 70 feet. And I make that as a motion.
All right, and if I'm sorry, but if I may just ask a clarification, do we need to amend the language about existing projects? Because I think that's a key component of all of this.
Yeah, I don't think we're good because none of the projects exceed that.
All right, good deal. Thank you for the clarification. All right, have a motion from Mr. Perkel. Is there a second?
I will second that.
All right, I have a second from Ms. Avery. Any further discussion before I call the vote? All right, all those in favor, raise your right hand.
Okay, and then there's a second part to that, and we can either move forward that or table that since the moratorium's in place, but that would be the modifications to the zoning ordinance themselves. And I'm fine either way with a moratorium in place. We can deal with that at a work session next month, or we can go ahead and pass that through. That is the heart of the issue on there, is the maximum building height.
All right, thank you, Mr. Perkel. Other comments?
Yeah, I just have can you clarify what it is that you're proposing then in the Central Business District as the maximum building height?
I'd certainly like it to be lower, like 40, but that can be hashed out as it goes through P&Z and comes back to us. I certainly think 70 is excessive, anything over 70. So I would certainly be happy beginning with just eliminating that exemption table, which allows 84 feet and 130 feet.
I mean, I don't have a problem with that. I would just point out that City Hall itself is greater than 40 feet in height and I'm not talking about to the spire at the top, just to the peak above the words City of Sugar Hill, that peak is about 45 feet, and that's only at the front of the building, not how you'd actually measure that building height, because it would actually encompass going all the way around Temple. The building, our City Hall building, is probably somewhere in the 55 to 60-foot range as the average building height across its facade. I actually had it measured today, and it's, like I said, the front one is 45, and actually to the tip of the spire, it's 83 feet to the tip of the spire. But it's just so you guys have a scale of how tall 83 feet is.
And I think part of that results in the change of the language from the previous maximum building heights were measured in stories, and now it's in feet. The intent more is stories than feet, but the current wording is feet, and I don't mind, as we discussed that, changing it. I mean, I think 3 stories. 4, I mean, there's precedent for, I think 5 is too high, there's precedent for that as well. But certainly 130 allowing potentially up to 13 stories, I think is extremely excessive. 84, I think is excessive. So that gets back to the wording when the ordinance was changed. And if it's better or easier to enforce in terms of stories, I'm happy to substitute that language.
And I think it's a good conversation to have, because I think that I mean, you could potentially have a 70-foot tall 3-story building, you know, we have to find a balance. But I'm going to look at staff to help us find that balance, because they're much more educated than I am when it comes to the architectural standards and how we would regulate that. Things like 3 stories at a certain height, or say an offset, say at a certain number of stories, you have an offset, so that way the building facade is not so flat, just so you have a 5-story. Right. You would offset it backwards in that way, and then you'd have like a 20-foot offset or something, and it would go up from there. I think that's a more reasonable way of regulating building height, particularly in our central business district, because if we went to 40-foot, it would actually be, with the exception of O&I, we would have 5 other commercial classifications that would actually allow buildings taller than in our central business district, which seems counterintuitive to me.
I'd like to come back and address those as well, but those didn't seem to be as urgent. But I'm certainly fine tabling this part while we work out a difference between feet and stories there. But that was the intention more, stories.
I mean, I'm fine with giving staff some direction on, I would be agreeable to having give staff direction on at least getting us information about building heights and stories and options that we have, so that we can have a conversation about it amongst us as council, so we can work through the concerns, because I hear your concerns, but I want to get more from that. I want to hear more about that. I also want to hear from everybody on council, you know, their thoughts and opinions. So I'm fine with giving. I'd love to hear staffs have them do some research and give us feedback on this, particularly what other cities have done, how other cities have handled it. If you have a particular ordinance that you like, that you would be able to share with us beyond just limiting it to a certain foot, I think that would be very helpful.
All right. So I don't know that we need a motion if we're not sending that on to the planning and zoning.
Tell Paul, sure. Yeah, that we would like to have staff do research and on building heights and options for how we can address these issues.
Right. And if it be possible, bring that back for the work session. Right. I have no other action.
Right. Thank you. Thank you for the great discussion. I do think we need maybe a motion to table this, though, this item, right? Number 2.
Second part of it. Then you P and Z or not?
I don't think you necessarily have to take a motion on it. The direction has been you're going to bring back something next month on this item. So the clerk will know to put an agenda item on next month for building height discussion in the central business district.
Thank you, Mr. Hartley. I just thought I would ask and make certain. Yes, sir, Mr. Purple.
And I don't think we actually voted on the moratorium, although we discussed it. I think we still need to vote on that, on the maximum building height of 70 feet.
I actually believe we did. There was a motion. And
did we vote on that? I didn't note it. Yeah. We actually did. Okay.
Very good.
Apologize. We're good
it's
on that.
Okay. There's a lot going on, and I'm just going to admit, y'all are wearing me out tonight. So, but it's all been great discussion. So, all right. I think that is it with the agenda. And do we have a need for executive session?
I think briefly, yes.
Okay. I have had a need. If there's a motion, and if you could just express the reasons why.
I would make a motion for executive session to discuss legal, real estate, and/or personnel
All right.
items.
I have a motion to go into executive session. Is there a second?
Second.
All right, second from Mr. Hicks. All those in favor of going into executive session, please raise your right hand. All right, we will go in, we'll come back out, and adjourn later. So I'm going to do this a little bit differently tonight. We met in executive session, and we are back from executive session, having discussed legal, real estate, and personnel matters, but we do have no action to take outside of executive session. So I will entertain a motion to adjourn our city council meeting if there is one. I have a motion to adjourn from Mr. Perkle. Is there a second?
Second.
I'll take it from Ms. Avery. We'll give that to her. All those in favor of adjourning, raise your right hand. All right, we are out of here. Thanks for a great night.